Afternoon, fellas. I know you've been given a project last Friday in regards to doing research on a country in the world, and I just thought it might be a good idea to give you a bit of an idea and some reminders on how you can do each particular thing. The project is designed to be a research project, so what we're actually measuring are two things. First thing we're looking at is your understanding of another culture in the world, and the second one is how you can actually collect information and research. Now, because you can't go to the library and places like that, it's going to be a wee bit more limited, but the internet is a wonderful resource, and I'm sure you can get a lot of that information from there. But in saying that, you don't want to be taking stuff from the internet and just copying and pasting it into your project. It's actually your own work, so we want to see you being able to process it and actually make it your own. So that's really, really important. First thing you need to do is to pick a country. So you've got three regions of the world that Ms. Dalton went through last week that you can pick. The first one is North America, so that would probably be the United States, but Canada is also in there as well. The second one is South America. You can look at South America. There are some very, very cool countries in South America. My suggestion is we're looking at the likes of Peru, Bolivia. Those areas of the world are fascinating. The third one is the Pacific Islands, and again, absolutely fascinating countries there, very small island chains, but the likes of Samoa, Fiji, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, a whole range of countries that you can look at there. And then the final one is Monsoon Asia, probably one of the largest regions in the world. About 60% of the population of the world identify themselves being in this region. There are 22 countries there. I'm sure you'll be able to find an interesting one, the likes of Mongolia, Thailand, Vietnam, just to name a few. So there's a whole range of countries that you can look at, but you need to pick one. And I suggest that you look at one that you can get good information on, and probably more than that you're interested in. You may have heard about it before, you may have had a relative who's gone there, you may have visited it yourself. So you'll have a bit of a background, and you might be able to interview people in regards to what the country's actually like. That's the first task. Second task is then you've got to start doing your research. And the first task that we've asked you to do is to create a hand-drawn map. Now, whenever you're doing a map, you've got to make sure that you've got some key features. So when drawing a map, first of all, you've got your outline of the country. Here's made up one through there. You always make sure that you have a frame, like so. You have a key. And on the key, you would have information that is natural and cultural. So natural things are things made by nature, mountains and rivers and plains and different types of vegetation. It may have tropical rainforest, add all that kind of stuff in there. And then the second one, of course, is cultural features, things that are made by people. So cities, are there any famous landmarks, any major roading systems or rail systems that are interesting and that we need to know about. Okay, so you'll be adding in those. Now when you do that, if you're going to add in, for instance, say, tropical rainforest, you might draw it in like so, and then line shade it in there like that, and then add that into your key. Remembering those rules that you don't have a huge amount of writing on the map, that's what the key is for. Also make sure that you have a north point, so we know which way it is. You've got a title, saying what the country actually is, and as well as that, if you can, a scale is good too. Now you're being measured here not on whether you can go find a map, but your map skills. So you have to hand draw it, and you take a bit of time with this too. So it's got to look good, it's got to be colourful, it's got to be accurate, and we want to see what you guys can do in regards to map skills. The second task that you have to do is a climate graph. And you did a climate graph with me earlier in the year, one for Christchurch and one I think it was for Hong Kong. The basic things that you got to remember with a climate graph. First of all, you have temperature on one side and rainfall on the other. Rainfall is measured in millimetres, temperature we measure in degrees Celsius, like so. And you need to be marking in along the way, nice and accurately, what your different readings are. And over this side here, of course, the same thing, all the way up. Down the bottom, you have months. And there are 12 months in the year, obviously, starting in January all the way through to December. So there are 12 columns going all the way down, like so. I'm not going to draw them all in because that will take all day. Remember how you do rainfall again. You basically imagine that is filling up with water, and each month we have a reading for rainfall, and you would go up to, it might be 90, we'll say 90 over there, 90 for January, we go to 90, go across, line shading like that, and it's filling up like so. It's a blue bar. Then we go to temperature, and with temperature we'll go on this side here, and we'll say it was up to 17, say 17's up there, put a mark, like so in the middle. And then we end up with a whole series of marks, 12 going across, and then we join them up with a curve, making sure that when we get here that it touches the end, and then this one has to touch the end. And we would end up with the same thing in regards to bars. And once you've done that, the climate graph actually, you have to be able to show us that you can actually understand it, that you can read it. So you then summarise for us what the annual temperature and climate is, sorry, what the climate is over 1 year for your country. When would be the best time to visit? When is it very wet? When is it quite humid and muggy? Are there any special conditions that we see existing here that are very different than New Zealand? And we'd love to see you kind of adding that information in there as well. Third task is looking at the culture of the country. Okay, so what kind of things do the people do? This is more about the people. So what is it in regards to sports? Do they have any famous sports that they do? I know that in Mongolia, wrestling is very, very big. In parts of South America, futsal is huge. In other parts of Asia, they play a very cool game where they have coins tied together with a feather coming out the bottom, and they kick them over a net, and it's actually like a game of volleyball but with feet. It's a very, very cool game to watch. So go out there and find, what kind of things make the culture of this particular part of the world very special. And every country and every culture has kind of its unique parts. And what we want you to do is to find out what are those unique parts. What are things about, is there some strange music, some traditional music, the way that they dress, maybe some of the ways that they move around from place to place, things like that. Okay, so we're wanting to know about the culture. Fourth thing you've been asked to do is to design a menu. Now, this is good fun. So a lot of you will go out and you'll go to takeaway restaurants, or maybe even dine in restaurants in different parts of the world. You'll try different foods. We want you to go out and actually look and see what are some of the really traditional foods of these kind of countries. And one of the things that you have to do here is design a menu for us. Now, if you design a menu generally does have a starter. Something to get you going. In some cases, it's just like a couple of dip foods and things like that. A main and a kind of traditional dish. So I can tell you, and I've tried this, one of the traditional dishes of Peru is the guinea pig, and it is served. So find out what the traditional dish is and the main dish, and maybe even a dessert as well, and a drink too. Non-alcoholic is better, so let's just try and keep it nice and seemly. But if they do have something kind of wild and strange that the adults tend to drink at times, we don't mind adding that in too. Now, if you really get into this, you may even be able to find in your menu, in your main, or maybe in your starter, a recipe. And if you want to really kind of go the extra mile, why don't you make it, have a crack at it, make it for mum and dad, and we can try it out later on. The fifth question is really kind of in relation to my subject, which I teach in the senior school, geography, and it's how people use the environment. And we learned earlier on about some of those countries in monsoon Asia, how they use the monsoon in rice farming. And the photo that you can see on the starter of this front page has those fog nets that I was talking about very briefly. Again, in South America and some parts of Chile and Bolivia, people have learned to actually harvest the fog to get water to irrigate lands. So there's all sorts of strange ways that people have learned to use the environment they live in. And you might be able to tie this into your climate graph or to your map and kind of be able to link the two together. But we're interested to see how people use the environment to live in these particular areas. Okay. The final one is an email or a postcard. I've got a postcard here. This is what a postcard used to look like. In the old days, what we'd do is we'd buy one of these for about $1. It would have a photo of a famous place or a famous thing. This here is the Swiss Guard at the Vatican, and what you would do on the back is to write down a letter home to mum and dad or to your family, just saying, "Hey, this is what I've just managed to see." What we want you to do is to imagine that you are in this country and you are writing a postcard home, explaining what you're actually seeing. You might be at a famous place. You might be at the Vatican, for instance, through here, and explaining what the Swiss Guard is all about, what they're wearing, and what it's like, and the sights and sounds. So this is one where you've got to use your imagination. It's pretty cool because you can kind of just imagine what kind of things are out there. You might be sitting down for a meal. You might be watching the sunset over the Atacama Desert. You might be in the middle of a monsoon in Vietnam. You might be traveling across the Great Wall of China, or you might be fishing in one of the wonderful Pacific Islands. So use your imagination, and we're interested to see what you guys can come up with here. But a good email or a good postcard, I'd prefer a postcard, home in regards to that would be great. So it's a chance for you to show us what you can find out, how creative you can be, and at the same stage for Ms. Dalton, Mr. Miller, and myself to learn a bit more about the wonderful world that we live in. You've got a week or so to complete it, so we really are expecting a high level of work. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask either on our Zoom sessions or using the discussion tab. All the very best, guys. Look forward to seeing these. They're going to be awesome. Take care.